Why are legacy automakers so bad at supporting the cars that they build? It's getting pretty frustrating, to be honest with you. Let me unpack and let's discuss. Welcome back, everybody. So Paul here with another episode of Between the EVs, I guess. And you'll notice that there's a slightly different EV to my left here, which is our Fiat, and not which is normally here, which is our Ford Mustang Mach-E, because that is currently at the dealer for some work. And I kind of want to take a couple minutes to express and vent about my experiences over the past couple years of getting our cars serviced. Now, as you know, we have our Tesla Model 3 Performance here off to my right, which I've had serviced multiple times. We also have our Ford Mustang Mach-E, which is typically over here. We've also had in the past a Hyundai Ioniq electric vehicle that we had for a couple years, which was also a very good vehicle to own. And another thing I want to bring up is about my brother's recent ownership of a Chevy Bolt. He still owns the Bolt, but he recently purchased it a little over a year ago. And here we are now coming up on almost 2 years of him owning the Bolt, and we've had a service done to that vehicle, which is also kind of frustrating. And so I kind of want to figure out, why is it that some automakers have service down pretty well, and it's not perfect, but we'll talk about Tesla in a little bit, and why other automakers are struggling so bad after doing this for so long. So let's dive into my previous experiences, my most current experience that I'm going through right now, and maybe figure out, is there a better way? So let's talk about it. So for those of you who followed the channel, you know that I used to own a 2017 Hyundai Ioniq EV. It was our first EV, it was really cool, and we really enjoyed owning it, but of course it wasn't a perfect car by any means. We had some issues with it. For instance, the 12-volt battery had gone. We had a couple recalls on the car that we had to bring it to the dealership to get fixed. And towards the end of our ownership, I started getting so frustrated with the dealer experience that I ended up selling the car. That was partially the reason why I sold that car. And to elaborate a little bit, we've had our Hyundai serviced multiple times by our local dealership here in Myrtle Beach and had no problems whatsoever getting work done. However, one day we had a 12-volt battery issue with the car where we had to get a new 12-volt battery. Seems like a pretty easy thing, right? I tried to take care of it on my own, couldn't get a battery. I would try to order it from a dealership, they couldn't get it in. Finally, I brought the car to the dealership and I said, listen, figure out a battery for this car and let me know. And nearly a month after going through this process of trying to get a battery for the car, it took the dealership like over 2 weeks, almost 3 weeks, to get a battery for the car and then put it in the car. Now, I was very happy that they were able to finally get it done, finally get it installed in the car. It costed me almost $400 to replace the battery in that car. Ridiculous, but it was a price that I had to pay because I couldn't take care of it myself. Couldn't find a battery that would fit and be proper for that vehicle. Later on, after I started having some issues with the vehicle, still under warranty, I tried to bring it back to the dealership and they said, we can't work on that car because it's an EV. And I said, but you guys have worked on it in the past. Your hybrid technician worked on that car. And they were like, yep, but we can't work on it, not until we EV certified. So now I had a car that not only had issues while still under warranty, but also had a recall, and I could not get that car serviced anymore by our local dealer. And I don't know where the next dealership is. I think it was like 30 or 40 miles away. So being as frustrated as I was, I said, you know what? I'm not dealing with it anymore. Let's get rid of this car because the legacy automakers are just really struggling. And it's up to you whether or not you want to call Hyundai a legacy automaker. They've been around for a while. They're obviously a South Korean company. They're not American. They're not even Japanese. It's a South Korean car company that builds Hyundais and Kias and Genesis is one big company there. And so I had such a frustrating experience with that. And then we ended up getting the Ford Mustang Mach-E. And so I had experiences bringing that in for service in the past. In fact, one time I brought it in for a piece of plastic trim underneath the hood that was broken when I bought it, but I didn't bother going back right away to get it fixed. And so when I went back, probably about 6 or 8 months later, I said, hey, listen, I'm bringing it in for this service, but also could you fix this piece under the hood? It was like that when I bought the car. I just didn't have time to bring it back. And after they wound through that process of getting the new part in and everything, they pretty much told me, well, we're only going to do this one time, and maybe next time you got to be a little bit more careful about what you're doing on the car. So immediately just absolutely accused me of breaking the piece that was broken since I had retrieved the car. Now that's partially on me because we had gotten the car home. I then saw the issue. I didn't bother going back to get it looked at, and that's on me for waiting that long. But the fact that they were so straight to basically blame me for that was just unnecessary and just really kind of aggravated me because this was our local Ford dealership. Now, more recently, my brother had purchased a Chevy Bolt a little over a year ago, and this year, 2024, he actually had an issue with the high voltage battery. The high voltage battery had basically finally given out. It's a Bolt with those recalls on it, even though his car wasn't part of the recall. He ended up getting a new battery for it anyway, which was kind of fortunate for him because he basically got a car with, 20-something thousand miles on it and then now has a brand new battery in that car. And so fortunate for him. However, the experience was quite aggravating actually because we had to bring him to the dealership. He had to drop off the car. And of course, luckily for him, he had an extra car. So for him, he didn't have to necessarily worry about trying to get a ride to work or whatever the case may be. He had an extra car, so it wasn't a big deal from there. But there was zero communication between the dealership and him for a very long time. My brother had to constantly call the dealership to get them to tell them what was going on. They wouldn't call him to update him. There's no online portal place that you can go to see updates. Not even a text message, just nothing for that communication to occur. And so it's frustrating because when you have a car that's sitting there, that's the thing that gets you to and from your job. The thing that pays for that car is the job that the car needs to get you to. And so it's frustrating to have to sit waiting by a phone for them to call you and then never call you. Now, being an owner of a Tesla has opened my eyes quite a bit. We have had quite a bit of service done to this car, most of which has been done right here in this garage from their mobile techs. They actually come out to the house, they work on the car, they fix whatever I have an issue with, and that is pretty much it. The only time I ever had to bring this car in for a service was when we actually drove out to Colorado, and I actually brought the car in for a tire rotation, and I brought the car in to get the wind noise fixed on the driver window. It was something that mobile technicians tried to do multiple times. They at least tried, could not get it fixed. Bringing it out to that service center in Colorado actually fixed it. Now, of course, I didn't go to Colorado to go to the service center. We went out there for vacation. We just happened to be in the area. I was able to get the car serviced, and I was able to get the car back all in the same day. It was really nice. Dropped the car off, came back a few hours later. The car was ready to go. And just like that, my service was done with Tesla. And same goes for even the at-home appointments. They've had to reschedule on me a couple times, like, hey, we can't make it out. Can we do this next week? It happens. But it doesn't put me out of a car because the car still functions properly. I just need to get some superficial stuff done. Like, for instance, when I had to get the taillight replaced. Not a big deal. It was just some water in the taillight lens. I could still drive the car. The rear spoiler being bad, well, they just eventually came out and replaced the rear spoiler. Wasn't a major issue. Everything that has been an issue on this car has been relatively superficial and has not stopped me from having to drive the car even when it's in for service because the service turnaround was very quick. And I know a lot of people complain about Tesla service, but honestly, after the last couple years of owning some EVs and owning cars in general, I'm noticing how poorly service centers are in general, just the typical service centers. And this is going back from when I used to own a Mazda. This has been the same experience I've had with many, many brands of vehicle. And so most recently, I want to jump onto our most recent experience, which is still currently going on. So last week on Tuesday, I dropped off the Mustang Mach-E at the dealership to get the side view mirrors fixed. Now, the side view mirrors are electric, so they fold when you lock the car, they open when you unlock the car. It's a pretty standard thing. A lot of cars have that nowadays. The Tesla has this. But I've noticed a little while back, probably close to a year, that the one mirror was starting to do this weird jittering thing when it opened. Then all of a sudden I noticed most recently, within the last couple of weeks, that the other one was starting to do the same thing. And now it was getting worse and worse and worse. And so I figured, well, the 3-year, 36,000 mile warranty is up in January, which means I got a little over a month to get the car serviced for anything that needs to be taken care of under that bumper-to-bumper warranty. Of course, the high-voltage battery and stuff is covered for 8 years total, so I don't have to worry about that for a while. So I log on to the dealer website, I type in my information, it has my car, I click on my car, I put my reason in there for bringing the car in, everything's put in there, I say submit, okay, drop your car off on Tuesday morning at 8:30. Very good. So Tuesday morning comes around, so I bring the car to the dealer, I walk into the service area, I walk up to the advisor, and I say, I'm here for my appointment. She goes, okay, great. And she says something along the lines of, okay, and you were aware that you're dropping this off for a diagnostic check. Now, the way I interpreted that line was, I'm dropping the car off for them to do a diagnostic. Then I would probably retrieve the car by the end of the day while they ordered parts or whatever they need to fix the problem. And then I would bring the car back at a later date. However, that's not exactly what happened. She said, we'll call you on Thursday. It's Tuesday. Thursday, that's 3 days away. So I dropped the car off Tuesday, which means I have no car Tuesday, no car Wednesday, no car Thursday, and you're going to call me Thursday with what exactly? A diagnostic on the car? What's wrong? I can tell you what's wrong. The electric motors are probably not working correctly, and that needs to be replaced. So it's going to take them 3 days to diagnose this issue on my car? It makes absolutely no sense. So I said, okay, and then they offered to drive me someplace to drop me off. Okay, so are you guys going to pick me up at the end of the day at my job and then drive me home? Are you going to pick me up the next morning and drive me back to work? Like, what are you doing for me at this point? Now, it's a good thing we have the extra car, which thankfully I bought the Fiat earlier this year for this almost exact reason, just in case we needed an extra car, whether one car was in for service, whether we had guests down and wanted to drive around for a little bit, we had a spare car. I didn't think, though, that I would be dropping my car off for a 3-day diagnostic to be done. Here's where the frustrating part comes. Today is Saturday, so the car was dropped off Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday I never received a phone call. Friday I never received a phone call. Today, I called this afternoon right before they closed. And so when I called, I got the operator over there at the dealership. I said, hey, I want to speak to this service advisor. She says, okay, I'll patch you through. It goes through. I end up having a, AI speak to me instead of the actual advisor. I say, hey, I'm, looking to figure out what's going on with my car, and could you let me know? And before they closed up for the day, I get a text message back from our advisor that says, well, actually, let's take a look at the exact message I was sent back. Good afternoon. My main shop technicians are not here today. However, I will check on this for you first thing Monday morning. So you're saying that you've had the car Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, and there is no way that you can figure out where they currently are with it. Did they not type up anything in the computer to say, hey, this is what we're working on, this is where we're at? So now I have to wait till Monday. So we are now literally going to be 1 week into this service for something that I could still drive the car, and I have no idea what's going on with it. This is so frustrating, and I kind of get why people don't want to deal with that stuff anymore. The typical service that you get for legacy automakers, whether it be Ford or Hyundai or GM or whatever the case may be, is really just poor. Now, maybe that's just in this area for some reason, but I also want to hear what you think. What has your experience been with your service centers? Regardless of the brand of the vehicle, What has your experience been? Have you gone through what I've gone through, where it's like they work on the car, then they just refuse to work on the car? Or you drop off the car and then you have zero communication as to what's going on, even after multiple days of the car being gone. So I'm curious to hear what you have to think. I'm extremely frustrated. I am doing a video on this experience, by the way. I started filming it on Tuesday when I dropped off the car, not thinking that it was going to be this long that I'd have to film this, but we are in the middle of this situation right now where I am down a car for something that was superficial and could have very easily have been driven in this process while they were in the middle of ordering parts or whatever the case may have been. So really, this should have been, I dropped off the car, they looked at the car, they gave me back the car the same day, and then I go back to get this situation resolved. Whatever they determined to be the issue, they can go ahead and fix it after they've ordered the parts. But now here we are almost a week into this, and no resolution, not even notes to tell me what's going on with the car. Absolutely nothing. And that is frustrating. Anyway, sorry to ramble on and rant about this, but honestly, I'm curious to hear what you have to think or what you've experienced. Has your experience been this poor? Is this business model all over the place in this country? Or is it really just I'm in a poor area for this stuff and maybe that's why I'm getting this way? Why is the Tesla service model so much better? And I know there's some limitations to this as well. Some people live far from a service center, can't get the car fixed easily, they have to take a whole day off of work to bring the car in, and I get that. And they are expanding service centers gradually over the entire country, and hopefully one day this will be just as seamless as any other Ford dealership or GM or whoever the case may be. But why is this seem like so much easier of a process to get done versus something that these other companies have been doing for decades? For one thing, communication. Give me some communication. Give me some update. Hey, we're working on your car. Hey, we noticed this was the problem. Hey, we're ordering parts. Not wait 5 days and then I have to reach back out to you for you to say, I don't know, because there's no notes in my system. I have to ask somebody and they're not here today. I think that is an absolute awful way of treating customers. And that actually might drive me to get rid of the Mach-E eventually because of that experience. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But anyway, once again, leave your comments below. I'm curious to hear what you have to think. Thanks again for watching another episode of Between the EVs here on Tech Motoring, and we'll see you on the next one. Take it easy, everybody. We'll talk to you soon.